Hello world, it's Gojo4 with you once again. Hope you guys are doing well today. So, I know this is kind of a long time coming, but finally here I am, ready with my Kong Skull Island film review. This will be spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen the film, you don't want spoilers, please go watch a spoiler-free review. Then you don't care about spoilers, then keep watching, okay? Kong Skull Island. Now, this film, going into it, was something that I was already pretty excited, but at the same time as newer trailers came out, I started to realize the tone was going to be a little different than Godzilla 2014. So I had to kind of step back and be like, okay, this isn't some like Godzilla 2014 spin-off. This is like its own movie. They're just in the same universe. So I had to kind of like walk into this film, you know, being its own thing, its own style. Because you could tell right from the beginning the film really goes its own way, opening with this great sequence of these World War II pilots, an American and Japanese pilot crashing on Skull Island, and then getting into this kind of chase sequence, which then leads into the big reveal of King Kong. And then of course it skips ahead 30 years to our characters in the midst of the last day, basically, of the Vietnam War, and Monarch, which is now just basically Rhonda, played by John Goodman, and then Corey Hawkins is kind of like an assistant. And they're basically, this is all that's left of Monarch. They pretty much have no funding left, so they basically piggyback onto an expedition to Skull Island by this satellite scientific organization. And of course, John Goodman kind of needs a military escort and a tracker for some reason, though nobody knows why except John Goodman. And then they punch through this big storm, and then they get there, and so then they start doing their survey of the island with seismic charges, dropping bombs in the ground to then map out the tunnels underneath. And as John Goodman suspected, the island is full of like holes and stuff and tunnels. Well, that pisses off Kong because he shows up and he fucks up every helicopter and breaks them all down, and in a pretty awesome sequence, and he just smashes a bunch of them, and really pisses off Samuel L. Jackson, by the way, who's leading this squadron of soldiers. After all this, because of that, he's just hell-bent on killing King Kong. So he gathers up his soldiers. Meanwhile, the rest of who's left, John Goodman, Corey, Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, they kind of go in their own route. You know, because basically after all the helicopters crashed, everybody got split up. So they kind of have two groups, and we kind of follow them for a while. Anyway, Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, they run into John C. Reilly and a bunch of tribal people. And then he explains that Kong is God on the island. He protects them from the skull crawlers. Is that young man we saw at the beginning of the film crashing from his P-51. Anyway, they're like, hey, so we have to leave the island in 3 days because we have a pickup coming. Meanwhile, Samuel L. Jackson and his crew are trying to get to a downed helicopter with a bunch of weapons because he wants to use that stuff to kill King Kong. Anyway, well, thankfully John C. Reilly has built like a little boat. They're able to use the boat to get up north. Anyway, so the two groups finally come together. And Samuel L. Jackson wants to kill Kong, but Tom Hiddleston's like, no, we have to leave. And John C. Reilly like, you can't kill Kong. And then in the end, Tom Hiddleston's like, fine, go ahead, we'll wait for you. But then they have kind of a change, you know. But then Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson kind of like, no, you know what, actually, let's go save Kong. And John C. Reilly joins them, and then this big finale at the end. And then the big Mama Skullcrawler shows up as well during this finale. They nearly take down Kong, they light him on fire. And they put bombs around him, but Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson show up and are able to stop him, or stall him at least, until, like I said, the big Mama Skullcrawler shows up. She's the big one. And then we have this big final battle between Kong and the Mama Skullcrawler. Kong manages to kill the Mama. The rest get off the island. John C. Reilly, you know, gets home to see his wife after 30 years. A pretty touching moment shown in the credits. And then, of course, if you stayed up to the credits, there's the post-credit sequence. But I will get to that. But as a film, it was enjoyable. I definitely walked away going, this is like kind of a popcorn flick, one of those island survival movies. If you've seen a lot of these, you know, B movies, like this, you can already start. The first thing you do is, okay, who's gonna die? You know, you see characters like, he's probably gonna die. He's like the Landsat guys. They were dead from the beginning. You knew all those Landsat scientists, like they're scientists, they're gonna die. John Goodman, I was pretty sure he was gonna die. His death sequence, by the way, was kind of cheesy. I thought that was like, oh shit, and then he gets eaten. That kind of bugged me because I was just like, oh. It felt kind of silly. I was like, what? Samuel L. Jackson's death was pretty brutal, by the way. Kong is quite merciless in this film. He smashes helicopters, he stomps on people, he smushes people. He is brutal in this film. But they give Kong quite a bit of character. Explain a little bit that he's like the last of his kind. His parents were killed by the Skullcrawlers. The Kong were the only thing protecting the island from the Skullcrawlers, and these seismic charges woke them all up. But it also really begins to lay some lore for the Monsterverse, which I'm going to get into the post-credit sequence a little bit. But the big thing with this film is that it was just fun, entertaining, 70s rock music, action, very visual, very cool looking visual effects. The story is kind of almost generic, you know, the two, they're just trying to survive and get off the island. And so it's not really anything super original, let's be honest. This film is nothing, except for the fact that Kong doesn't die at the end. But it's kind of a mashup of a lot of monster movies and B movies where people are stuck on an island and have to escape. It's a new take on the King Kong story, but still, you know, sticks to the original mood and tone of the first film. Well, you know, it's a B movie in many ways, and so the acting is nothing really to write home about. And honestly, Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston, if I wasn't a monster fan and I just went to see this movie for them, I would have been pretty disappointed because they're just kind of there. I feel like they're there to take their paycheck and go home. John C. Reilly, on the other hand, well, I'm not the biggest fan of, you know, I know some people love him. You know, he's fine, but I really enjoyed him in this film. You know, I think he kind of stole the show for the human characters, which I didn't expect him to, but he was quite, you know, he felt like a good, real character. Like I said, during the credits when it shows him coming back home after all these years and seeing his wife, that was touching. You know, that was a really touching moment. Samuel L. Jackson was good too, as an antagonist. If not a little much at times. I felt he was a little too silly, maybe? Like, too over the top, crazy, like, I gotta kill Kong, you know. Man is king, and it's just like, okay, it was a little much at times. So that's the thing. Don't go into this for the acting. Oh, there's no shortage of Kong action, I think, in this film. He's front and center, and he is probably also, Kong definitely steals the show in his own movie, which is what he should do. And there's a lot of great moments where it's Kong not actually doing anything action-wise. He's just being King Kong. We get to see him be King Kong, just like a normal creature. I think that definitely a good addition to the Monsterverse now. I feel like it'll be cool to look back once Godzilla vs. Kong has come out, to look back at these films. Now let's talk about the post-credit sequence, because that's what everyone really wants to talk about. The Monsterverse. Right? The post-credit sequence shows Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston's character were taken by Monarch. They're being interrogated, and Corey Hawkins, who's pretty much all that's left of Monarch now, reveals that there's other creatures out there. And they show some cool cave drawings that show Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah, and then the final one of Godzilla and King Ghidorah fighting each other. And it's like, oh shit. My biggest thing, though, that I really have to take out of all this is, you know, even Godzilla 2. Beyond that, we have Godzilla vs. Kong. I have to ask, like, how are Godzilla and Kong gonna end up fighting each other? Because, you know, Kong, very much like Godzilla, is kind of keeping watch over something, guarding something, right? Godzilla kind of guards the oceans, or the world, kind of, and Kong guards the island. There's almost like they're on the same side. Why are Godzilla and Kong gonna fight? Hope there's a good reason for it. Like Civil War, I think, is a great example. Civil War came up with really good reasons for Captain America and Tony Stark to fight each other, especially at the end. Oh my god. So I want something like that. Like, it can't just be, oh, Kong is mad that Godzilla swam near his island and some. Like, I need something better than that. You know, I need some good motivation for their fight. See, they're both kind of good guardian-like creatures, why would they fight each other? Something has to bring them to fight each other. But yeah, the Monsterverse, it's building, it's growing, you know. And this film really starts to, you know, lay in the seeds. And there's also going to be a companion slash sequel comic book coming out, or a comic book series, I think, coming out. So that will add some more depth to the story. It's kind of set after Kong Skull Island, so maybe if it's an ongoing series, it will build up to Godzilla 2 and kind of, you know, or even Godzilla 1, and kind of explain how we got from 1973 to 1999 in the Philippines with Monarch, you know. But anyway, that's all for this review. And you know, let me know what your thoughts on the film were below. Comment below, and what are your thoughts on the Monsterverse in general? You know, where do you want this whole franchise thing to go? Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, bye.
Well, wasn't that just great?